It is a beautiful spring day in April 2003. Cherry blossoms are falling. A gentle breeze is blowing across Tokyo. It is a momentous day. It is the wedding day of Prince Satohito Arisugawa to the beautiful Harumi Sakamoto, who was a former news announcer. The prince was dressed in a dashing, traditional military uniform. The bride wore a traditional 12-layer wedding kimono. It was attended by about 300 to 400 guests, many of them Tokyo's ruling elite and celebrities. It was a wonderful party, except for one small fact. There is no Prince Satohito Arisugawa. In Uji, Kyoto, the Kitano family, who owned a greengrocer, celebrated the birth of their firstborn son, Yasuyuki. Yasuyuki was the oldest of 5, but must have believed he was meant for more than running the grocery store after his father. While a young man, he began to tell tall tales. He would tell classmates, "My uncle is running for election in the House of Representatives." According to his parents, he was not a great student and left school after junior high. He soon left home after that to find his own way in the world. He would often tell acquaintances and potential employers that he was a graduate from Kyoto University. Still, he wanted more. Young Yasuyuki had royal ambitions. To understand this story, we need a little background on Japan's royal family. Japan has the world's longest dynastic royalty. The current Japanese emperor can trace his lineage directly to 1,500 years ago, and it has been traditionally believed that the emperor's line is directly connected to the sun goddess Amaterasu. After World War II, the emperor had to renounce his godhood, and the imperial family lost power in the government, and today are largely figureheads. But despite that, the imperial family holds a powerful and strong place in Japanese people's hearts. For Americans who have no royalty, it's difficult to understand Japanese people's reverence for the imperial family. They're not celebrities here. In fact, the imperial family seems to stay out of the spotlight for the most part. Unlike some people. Harry and Meghan. They very rarely make public appearances. So when you meet one in person, you might get very excited and have a great story to tell your children and grandchildren. Also, the imperial family is really big. There are over 18 official princes and princesses. There are only 2 main imperial households or lines, but many subsidiary lines. While working as a janitor for a small temple, Yasuyuki was at a local public library where he found records of all the various lines of the royal family. He found one line that had died out 100 years before, the Arisugawa. The imperial family almost never appears in public, but there is great respect and reverence in Japan for them. Kitano must have sensed an opportunity. In 1980, Kitano started calling himself Prince Satohito Arisugawa and created a political organization called the Prince Arisugawa Memorial Corporation. Kitano, as Prince Arisugawa, went to a children's hospital and offered to help raise money. Certainly thrilled at the chance of having a member of the royal family help their small charity, they began selling special bottles of mineral water with the seal of the Arisugawa family on it. Despite working hard to sell the water and other products with the royal seal on it, the charity would never see a single yen. He also introduced himself to the Uyoku Dantai, right-wing nationalist groups. They revere the royal family and believe they should be put back in charge of the country. Kitano, once again as Prince Arisugawa, managed to get himself named as the honorary president of the Nihon Seinensha. You can't have a fake prince without a fake princess. Harumi Sakamoto was born in Kumamoto and was ambitious from the beginning. At 18, she came in runner-up in the Miss Kumamoto competition. After high school, she got married and started a cram school with her husband and had 2 children. She was quite successful, but Harumi had dreams of more. She divorced her husband and moved to Tokyo. There she met her second husband, who ran a production company. She soon divorced him too and started her own hostess club in Ginza, referring to herself as Miss International. She would claim that she almost won the Miss Universe pageant, that she was the first newswoman to report live while soaking in a hot spring, that she was the top saleswoman for a large pharmaceutical company, and that she had valuable contacts all over the world. Her appetite for fame and lavish lifestyle kept her deep in debt, making her more and more extreme with her claims. And in 2002, she met Kitano in her club in Ginza. They soon began a romantic relationship, and plans began to form. Japanese weddings are big and expensive. The actual wedding ceremony itself is often small and private, but it is very common to have one or more large wedding receptions. One invites many families, friends, colleagues, teachers, and many more to these parties. So, the trio's plan was to fleece their guests, to invite lots of people and pocket as much of the money as possible. As mentioned before, there were somewhere around 350 wedding guests, making for over 13 million yen received from guests. But Kitano had swung for the fences by sending out over 2,000 invitations. Many people were happy and excited to attend. One guest said, "For a hick like me to get invited to an imperial wedding was quite something." But some guests were worried about some of the things they saw as odd. The food seemed substandard for the circumstance, and the royal couple was charging over 10,000 yen, $90, for pictures. This seemed very out of character for a member of royalty. So, after the wedding ended, some people started to look into this prince's past. When that happened, the jig was up. The prince was not a prince, and the bride wasn't even a bride. The couple had never registered their wedding, so were not even legally married. The duo was arrested for fraud, not for impersonating royalty, but for taking money from guests under false circumstances. At first, they continued their claims of legitimacy and claimed they had not registered their union because royalty has no need to register. Yes, rules and regulations exist only for the peons. Kitano claimed that he was told by a long-lost member of his family that he was indeed a member of the royal household. "You're a member of the Japanese royal family, Kitano." And as such, he didn't have to go to the city office and register his wedding. But under some more pressure, they gave in. He admitted he was not a prince, that he and Sakamoto were not married at all. The scandal was big news in Japan.
しかし2003年4月、そんな国民の思いを踏みにじる事件が起きた。殿下、妃殿下の装いも新たな再入場でございます。心からの拍手をよろしく。今も残る VTR にはいかにも宮様前とした2人と拍手を送る300人もの招待客が映っている。男は束帯姿に、女は十二一重。今思えばどこか場違いな気もするが、当時会場にいた有名人たちは
みんな信じてましたよ。そこの周りにいる人たちも。皇族の結婚式行くのかって嬉しかったです。
Throughout the trial, Kitano referred to himself as His Majesty Prince Arisugawa, as did Sakamoto. The two were sentenced to over 2 years in prison. Furthermore, their great scam was a total failure. They got a total of 13 million yen, but due to the extravagant costs of the wedding party and the fact that few seemed to be interested in paying so much money for pictures, they only made off with an estimated 700,000 yen. In 2008, the Asahi Shimbun reported that the Prince Arisugawa Memorial Corporation is still open and working, with Satohito Arisugawa as president and Harumi Arisugawa as accountant. Even today, Kitano and Sakamoto still refer to themselves as His and Her Majesty. So, beware if some middle-aged guy claiming to be a royal prince tries to sell you bottled water.